Ramesses IV, Hequa Matra. Wow, that is a title to choose as a throne name, isn't it? That's for sure. So he wasn't born as a Ramesses, but he took the throne name Ramesses Hequa Matra. He wanted to buy in on his father's success of keeping out 3 invasions, and of course the great Ramesses of the 19th dynasty, Ramesses II. He was the 3rd king of the 20th dynasty, and he was the 5th son of Ramesses III. So there was that conspiracy to kill Ramesses III and make another crown, another prince, the king of Egypt, and it failed. And Ramesses IV became the king of Egypt. But he was no stranger to royal authority. In year 27, he appointed the 3rd high priest of Amun at the temple of Karnak. So he's been around dealing with his father's affairs. So he's crown prince, the royal scribe, and the general of the army before he became king of Egypt. So he was well informed of the family business. Now, he did have quite a few expeditions. So he ruled Egypt from 1155 BCE to 1149 BCE, so about 6.5 years. The expeditions were to the quarries of the Wadi Hammamat to get a nice big stone for his sarcophagus. In year 3, he gives us a really good example of what an expedition is to the Wadi Hammamat. So from Waset, Thebes, Luxor, you crossed the desert and you went to the quarries of Wadi Hammamat. So all the water's got to be carried, all the food for the expedition, and it's got to be protected. So this is like a shadow of what an expedition to the land of Punt would have been like, but he gives us this example, and it's all written down. So there are 8,360 men in total, okay, so over 8,000 men to go and cut these stones. 5,000 of them are soldiers, probably to protect the way of the caravan there and back, because these open desert areas, you get Bedouin raiders, that sort of thing, pirates of the sand, so to speak. 2,000 personnel came from the temple of Ammon. They were probably scribes keeping a record of what happened, who did what, etc., etc. 800 criminals came along on this journey. So those criminals would be the bearers of all the water, all the goods that needed to support the 8,000 people in total. 130 stonemasons and quarrymen to cut the stones and dress the stones so they could be dragged across the desert. On this expedition, 900 perished. So it gives you an idea. 900 perished. So around about 10-11% of guys who went on these expeditions never came home. So it gives a really good example of an expedition to the Wadi Hammamat. He had 4 expeditions in 1 year, his 4th year, to the quarries of Sinai to mine turquoise stone. Wow, that expedition there to that part of the world, to the Sinai, is 8 times difficult than going from Waset across the desert to Wadi Hammamat. A long, long way. And the Egyptians had been going there since the Old Kingdom, mining turquoise stone. And each king that went there built a small shrine, which later on became a temple to the goddess Hathor, and it was extended. So by the time Ramesses IV went there, he also added to that temple complex to honour the goddess for this beautiful blue stone. He built at Karnak. He added to the temple of Khonsu for his father Ramesses III, and he started a mortuary temple near Dela Bahri, which is where Hatshepsut built her mortuary temple. So remember, they like them nice and close to each other, so when they use that going forth by day spell, they can pop into each other's mortuary temples. Afternoon tea, lunch, dinner, that sort of thing. Maybe I'm just giving you a guess as to how they were thinking, why they had these temples so close together. And he also carved his name at Heliopolis. Remember, he is Ramesses, born of Ra, so he needed to leave something at Heliopolis. Ramesses IV expanded the workforce at Della Medina, the workers' village, the guys who cut and decorated the tombs. He expanded it up to 120 men. Now, I think that he did this during the reign of Ramesses III, after that strike where everyone got cheesed off. They ran out of food. They probably felt that the burden they were given to construct these tombs was too great. And I think that Ramesses IV, as the Crown Prince, stepped in there, saw what was happening, saw that the supplies weren't getting there, and organised a better supply route and to expand the workforce. So he did that during his reign. Of course, every king chose the Valley of the Kings to be buried in. It has been suggested that he originally chose a site in the Valley of the Queens. He may have chosen that site for his tomb when he was Crown Prince, and maybe he never thought he'd ever succeed to the throne of Egypt. But he cut a tomb in what we know as KV2 today. It's a typical T tomb, so it's got a vertical shaft, burial chamber at the end, and then sometimes they can extend with storage chambers behind the burial chamber, all the goods you needed for the afterlife. It's decorated with the liturgy of Ra. So a lot of the decoration was sort of repeated from the tomb of Ramesses III. If you've got a workforce on the go, and I think they were probably cutting these tombs at the same time, then it was quite easy just to move over the artisans from one site to another. It's in the same valley. The Book of Caverns. So all those spells you need to get past those gateways and monsters. The Book of Amduat. So you can go through the gateway at Abydos to get to the afterlife. The Coming Forth by Day spell, so you can leave your tomb, your mummified body, and go to your mortuary temple. The Emerging into the Light, to be reborn as the living Kepra, everlasting life to your spirit. Wow. But these are the same types of texts, the same text that was in Ramesses III's tomb, which makes me think that he had these gangs working on his tomb and his father's tomb at the same time. So much easier if they're doing the same work in two different places. They're going to be quicker. It was 88.66 meters long. Wow. Big tomb for somebody who only ruled Egypt for 6.5 years. So again, that's what makes me think that he started this tomb maybe the last 2 years of his father's reign. Unfortunately, his body was moved to the Royal Cache KV35, the tomb of Amenhotep II, for safekeeping. And when the tomb was left open, a number of tourists, early tourists, Greek tourists, Roman tourists, left their mark there, their graffiti in his tomb. It's got 656 graffitis in his tomb. 50 graffitis are also from the Coptic period, and it was used as maybe a sanctuary for praying in and that sort of thing during the Coptic period. Richard Pocock, an anthropologist, visited the tomb in the 18th century. So he was going on his grand tour of the final education that every gentleman in Western Europe must have, which is to go on a grand tour and collect as many objects and curiosities as you possibly can. Edward Arton did the first excavation in this tomb. Remember, I mentioned Edward Arton earlier. He worked for a number of people, including Theodore Davis, and he cleared part of the entrance to this tomb. Then Howard Carter had a crack at it. So Edward Arton was in there from 1905 to 1906. Howard Carter from 1920. Most probably when he was working for the Egyptian Antiquities Service, because then that way they would have paid for the labour force. He's very clever, is our Howard Carter. They found numerous shabtis which originally belonged to Ramesses IV, and lots of faience. And faience is ceramics made out of quartz which has been fired. On his death, he was succeeded by his son, who became Ramesses V, and we'll look at him very, very soon. So please press the subscribe button. If you like the content of this video, press like, so thumbs up. And I've added music to the last couple of videos and this one. Please leave in your comments if you think, is it too loud? Is it too racy? Is it too slow? It'd be really helpful to have some feedback. So take care of yourself, and I'll see you real soon. Bye for now.